And I knew it wouldn't be long before parking came up. You can't have a conference in Bath without the subject of parking being mentioned. Right, our next speaker is a lovely gentleman. I've known him for many years. He's going to talk to us about the artist, the organisation, and the industry. His name is Andy Burden. He is a freelance director, recently appointed as the development director at the Natural Theatre Company, but he's worked in theatre for over 20 years now, primarily as a director, but also as a performer, lighting designer, writer, and producer. He introduced me to the world of improvisation when I was just 13, for which I'm eternally grateful. He's a lovely chap, and I'm intrigued to hear what he has to say. Please welcome to the stage, Andy Burden.
Thank you. Is this on? That's somebody else's speech there. This could go horribly wrong. I feel a bit like Madonna wearing this. But actually, I'm going to do a bit of... We're here to do theatre, so I think we should do a little bit of theatre. Okay, so I want you to join with me and do this. Okay? I'd like you to imagine I'm in a room. Okay? And in front of me, though, is a door into another room. Okay, and the door is big and it's made of oak, and I put my hand on a handle. What's the handle made of? Gold. It's a gold handle. Everyone see that? Beautiful. I'm going to open the handle. Is it going to open inwards or outwards? Inwards into the room. Okay, we open the door and I walk into the room. Now, in the room, there is a table in the middle. Okay, it's a big table. And over there, at the end of the room, just over there, is a big painting of what? At the back. Big painting of what? Call it out. Mona Lisa at the back. Fantastic. And at the back here, there's a fireplace. Over the fireplace is what? Call out. Anyone? A mirror. Okay, wonderful mirror. Oh, horrible. And below the mirror, there is a fireplace. Is the fire on or off? It's on. Okay, it's roaring. It's beautiful fire. We can all see the fire. What color are the walls? Green. Okay, we've got green walls. We've got that. What's over the door? A stag's head over the door. And here is the table. On the table, there are two what? Two goblets standing there. And in the middle is a box. And if I open the box, inside the box, well, I see something. You might all see something. Yeah? You can see the table, see the goblet, see the mirror. And then I walk through the table and it's gone. The beauty of theatre is it's about imagination and freedom to explore and celebrate your individual interpretation. It's human, it's universal, and it's free thinking. Luke asked me to be a bit provocative. We're here, Theatre Matters, and I'm going to suggest where the problems might lie with theatre, and you might not like it. My job now is that I'm a development director at the Natural Theatre Company. Ooh, that's great. But I still think of myself as a theatrical artist. How many of you think of yourselves as theatrical artists? Loads of you. Brilliant. And I wonder how many of you that are theatrical artists have this experience. I was recently at a party, and you go to a party, I've got kids, and so you get together with parents and all that, and we're at the party, and there's an accountant over there, and a plumber there, and a dentist, and a shopkeeper over there, and I'm talking to someone who owns a cafe. And they say, so what do you do? And I say, I'm a theatre director. Oh, do you direct at the West End or in the big theatre? I said, no. Oh, they said. I felt slightly apologetic, shouldn't be there. And then I said, do you go to the theatre much? And she said, I don't really like theatre. I went to something about 2 years ago, but it wasn't very good. And I just went, oh, I'm sorry. Like I was representing the whole theatre world. But what I should have said was, I went to a cafe in Aylesbury, I had a really bad cup of tea, and I've not drunk or eaten anything since. But I compare that story. Can I steal one of these? I feel like an American motivational speaker now. I compare that story to when we opened Count of Monte Cristo, and we had 3 people playing all the parts. I know, it's mad. But it was opening night, and inevitably things would go wrong. We were at Salisbury Playhouse, and it'd been a bit clunky, you know, but it went okay, The audience seemed to like it, but I knew there were mistakes, and I was waiting for someone to notice. And I came down into the auditorium afterwards, and there was one member of the audience stood on the stage. And I thought, oh, God, here we go. And he said, were you anything to do with that? And I thought, oh, God, he knows that we missed 3 pages out of scene 3, and the actor at the beginning of Act 2 put on the wrong costume. And I said, yeah, I was the director. And he said, that was brilliant. I've never been to the theatre before, but now I'm going to go every week. And that's the difference, isn't it? But sometimes, you know, we think of the audience as one. And people like me are often telling us, everyone, that we reflect and affect society, but it's this big faceted thing. And the question is, how do we celebrate this skill with the audience? How do we share theatre with the audience? Do we? Let's think. I've got an idea. I want to put on a show, and I've got this great idea. And so first of all, I've got this fantastic idea. I've got a hunch of what I want to do. So I get together the actors and designers and writers, and everyone's going to do it on profit share, and we're all very excited, and we're all working together. And then suddenly, I go, but we do need a bit of money to get set and rehearsal rooms and all that sort of thing. Oh, look, I'm stripping. And we're going to get all this together. And then suddenly, I'm going, right, I have to talk to funders. We've just talked. We just heard from the councillor. So I go to the Arts Council, and I sit down and I talk to nice arts people like Phil Heinsohn and Phil Gibby, who we're very lucky in this area. We've got very good arts officers, and we sit down, we have the conversation, and they tell us about pots of money. And I start to bend my idea of what I want to do to get the money. And I'm starting, like, maybe I can shoehorn my brilliant idea into this so I can get the money. And suddenly it's starting to change a bit. And then I realize I need to have matching funding. So then I go to the local authority and I say, right, this is what I want to do. And they've got a pot of money and they're doing all their good deeds, obviously, that they have to do. Social inclusion and education and all those ways that arts development has to be ratified by the government, and then I start to shoehorn my idea into that, and it's stretching over there, and it's stretching over there, and my original idea is in the middle, and then I go and talk to a sponsor, and maybe I'll get some other agency on board, and I start to bend my piece of art into something that I can easily describe on a sheet of A4 paper, and the art's getting lost. And then I start to learn to talk about the funding and those sort of conversations we've just had. But you know what? Deep inside of me, a little bit of the artist dies. And then I go, right, I've got to have somewhere to put this on. I'm going to go to a theatre. So, right, and Ian's going to talk to you later about doing the Rondo. Great theatre, ran it once, it's fantastic, but it'll take stuff. But not all theatres are like that. And I might say, right, I want to do this. And then they say, let's build a relationship. Be aware. Let's build a relationship, which means go away for 10 years. Or we'll put you on a development program. Now, some of these development programs are excellent, because while you're creating the art and you're having the support for the art, you might find that somebody's helping you with the marketing, and someone's helping you with the financial systems and all of that, and it can be very, very supportive. Sometimes, though, we can get caught in a never-ending cycle of development, going from one rehearsed reading to another, performing to an increasingly more small circle of our peers, all at the same level, telling us why we're not doing it right. And I'm just going, hang on, this is making my work a little bit irrelevant, because I'm trying to prove myself somewhere, and just a little bit of the artist inside me dies. And then I think, I shouldn't be talking to the development team. I've got to go and talk to the artistic director. I've got to talk to the elite of the theatre world. And I've got to get dressed up and go down the corridors and talk to the administrators and so on. And it's not just because I want to get the show on. I have to be honest. I want the artistic director to see it because I want some sense of validation, some sense that my artistic purpose is correct. And we know, and here's a lovely quote from John Carey's book, What Good is the Arts, worth reading, art is what the artistic elite deem to be art. And so we talk to them because they've got the key. And I hope you're all listening to Grayson Perry's brilliant Wreath lectures at the moment. If not, you must go and listen to them. And he said his idea is that art is good if enough people, of the right people, say it's good. So we have to spend our time talking to the right people. And we find ourselves talking to these people. And increasingly, I find in theatre, there's this equation between our social rank and my worth in the artistic world. Well, Alain de Botton says that's the definition of a snob. And I wonder how often some of us deal with theatre snobs. And then I'm there talking the talk, networking, and a little bit of the artist inside me dies. And so I think, right, what am I going to do? I've got to get that. I've got to change something. So now I've got to climb the great big staircase. I've got to get up the hierarchy. And do you know what happened? An artistic director some time ago said to me, so what? It's a hierarchy. You can't change it. You need to know who to suck up to. But I think of the brilliant, brilliant conductor Benjamin Zander. Have a look at his some of the stuff on YouTube, the TED lecture he does. And he says that the arts can be the world of the downward spiral, a world of measurement and comparisons, of domination of hierarchy, the world of competition in which you might be energized, but you will probably be demoralized, a world of fear and pressure, a world where there is nowhere to go but down, a world of blame, of putting people down, of we won and you lost. Now, if theatrical art is going to mean anything, it has to be human and creative. So how can the system be so hierarchical? Now, whose fault is it that there are all these people at the top? Is it them, or is it those of us that are saying, you're at the top, I want to be up there? And maybe we're creating this hierarchical system. And when I think about that, a little bit more of the artist inside me dies. But I get through all that. I've got the coat, I've got the show on, and then I have to impress the press. And I once was very lucky to be invited to the list party at Edinburgh, and I talked to a Guardian reviewer who said, of course, if you get a 4-star review, that's a really good show that can last. If it's a 5-star show, it just happens to be a show that's good this Edinburgh, but probably won't last outside the festival. And there's this sort of bizarre thing. And so we start second-guessing what the press are going to like, because we want our reviews, because that's apparently going to sell to the audience. Even though only about 32 people in the whole world read the arts pages, other than people who work in the arts. So we then start doing this. We start talking to the press elite. And when I do that, I think probably the last bit of the artist inside me dies. So then we have to think, where are we now? And what should we do? You see, because now my idea that I started out with as a play is a shadow of what it was. I've been trying to impress funding leaders, arts organisation leaders, and the journalist leaders. I've been worried about all these leaders of the industry. Mark van Vugt, have a look at his book, very good. He says that our modern society chooses the wrong leaders because it's based on primeval instincts. Maybe he's right. But what's the solution? Now, Vicky Hayward's just done an RSA talk, which is brilliant. And she says, we need to examine how we, as artists, have failed to join the dots. How isolationist are we? Are we seen as aloof? Are we not for the people, or are we just for the people who are people like us? We are not on the boards of businesses. We are not on the boards of banks or retail units. We're not the governors of schools. We don't stand as councillors or MPs. We don't become the Secretary of State for the Arts, and we don't become Prime Minister. And that's because we are so entangled in the mess that is the theatre industry, trying to make our mark, that however hard we try, I think we sometimes forget what matters. And that's what I started with, the audience. If we only found our merit from the audience's reaction, if we only found more money from the audience's ticket sales, if we found more patronage and funding from the audience's needs, if we found more inspiration from the audience's ideas, if we found more direction from audience involvement, like it or not, the opening of mass communication through modern technology has meant art is being created now by everyone. The sacred knowledge of how to create arts has been given away. The people have found the key to the secret garden. And so theatre has to move on. And we have to find, people like myself who run organisations, have to find new models that aren't bureaucratic, but are not exclusive, but are inclusive. We have to look at ways of communicating with the audience in a way that, funnily enough, a good model is high-end retail, where they have a really good product they want to sell, and they believe people want to buy it. Not to rip people off, they want to get a good product in a good person's hands. You see, we could look at commercial theatre, and I've directed in commercial theatre, and in my experience, it's a bit cynical about the audience. It believes the audience wants very simple things, and it only gives it that. But I've also, it's not always the case, but in my experience. But I've also found in my experience some artistic theatre is the same cynical attitude, because it's appealing to a devoted theatrical literate audience because nobody else will understand it. But now Peter Brook lays down the challenge for us. He says, theatres must be full. To fill them dishonourably is easy. To have them empty honourably is even more easy. But we need to fill them honourably. And the new artistic director of the National has come up with a great thing, Rufus Morris. He said, we need to widen the net. Yes, we do. It shouldn't just appeal to the devoted audience. It needs to communicate to everyone. We know it can, but we need to remember all those pressures on us. We have to communicate to everyone. We need to meet, people like me who run organizations have to meet our audiences and our artists on a level playing field. We need to actively seek out good theatrical art, and we need to stop placing hurdles in people's way. I started with the audience because that's what it's about. And however much we know it, our good intentions get crowded out by social insecurity, by hierarchical behavior, by lack of money, and by a desperate need to understand our own merit. For people like me, it's more dangerous than you think to trust the audience. But let me try one last thing, and I hope you can sing. Okay? I'm going to sing a note, and I want you to sing with me. La, 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 la. This is stolen off Bobby McFerrin. You can look at it. La, 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 la. That last note was your note. The audience is better than you think, and the audience has the power. What happens next is not up to the funders or the government. It's up to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We're pretty much on time. I know that Andy is taking part in the big debate at the end of the conference, so perhaps